ready to ditch those invisible roadblocks and actually unlock your potential. We're diving deep into 10 success blockers and how to overcome them to help you do just that.
What I find really interesting about this particular piece
Yeah.
is that it doesn't just focus on outward strategies.
Right.
It digs into the mindset stuff, which, let's be honest, is often the bigger hurdle.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they kick things off with a blocker we've all encountered.
Yeah.
Procrastination. You know, that whole I'll get to it later mentality.
Yep.
They even open with this funny anecdote about having big dreams, but then Netflix happens.
Classic.
But then they introduce this thing called the Pomodoro technique. Familiar with that one?
Definitely. It's deceptively simple.
Yeah.
25 minutes of focused work, a 5-minute break, repeat.
Right.
The beauty of it is that it works with your brain's natural rhythms instead of against them. We're wired for these bursts of activity, not endless slogs.
Yeah. So instead of getting overwhelmed by a massive to-do list, you're essentially tricking your brain into thinking, okay, just 25 minutes.
Yeah.
I got this. I really like that they emphasize just starting with one Pomodoro.
Right.
Especially for people who really struggle with procrastination. Have you found that to be true in your own work?
Absolutely. It's all about building that initial momentum.
Right.
Once you prove to yourself you can make a dent, even a small one, it snowballs from there, which actually connects perfectly to the next blocker.
Okay.
Negative self-talk.
Oh, man. That inner critic can be brutal.
Yeah.
The article says, beware of the language you speak to yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's so key. We'd never tolerate a friend talking to us the way we do in our own heads sometimes.
And that's the thing about negative self-talk. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
You tell yourself you can't. And guess what? You don't even try. That negativity seeps into everything.
So what's the antidote? I noticed the article talks about replacing those negative thoughts with positive affirmations. Like instead of I'm going to fail, it's I'm going to learn from this experience no matter what. Have you found that to be effective?
Absolutely. That shift from self-doubt to self-compassion is huge.
Okay.
And it ties in beautifully with the next blocker they discuss, fear of failure. The author uses this acronym, FEAR, which stands for false evidence appearing real.
Okay, I love that.
Right.
It's such a simple way to reframe it because so much of the time we're letting these imagined worst-case scenarios hold us back.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, can be a sign of imposter syndrome.
Absolutely.
Like the article points out, we're often making it up as we go along.
Totally.
And that's okay.
It really is. And the author shares a personal anecdote that I think illustrates this perfectly. He always wanted to be a pilot, but kept getting discouraged by people who told him it was a ridiculous dream. He ended up achieving it, proving that sometimes the opinions we need to be most wary of are from those who haven't even tried.
You know, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
We really do have to be mindful of where we seek validation because not everyone has our best interests at heart. Or they just can't see our vision, which might sound harsh, but...
It's like asking a fish for advice on climbing a tree. Their frame of reference is just totally different.
Exactly. And that kind of leads us to the next success blocker, which is goal setting, or rather the lack thereof.
Right.
The article uses this funny analogy. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
It's a classic for a reason. It perfectly captures the importance of breaking down huge, daunting goals into smaller, more manageable steps. Just like you wouldn't try to swallow an entire elephant whole, you don't need to achieve everything at once.
Right. It's about creating that roadmap to success, those milestones that'll lead you to your final destination. But I imagine even with a plan, taking that first step can be scary, especially if it means leaving our comfort zones.
Right.
Which the article doesn't shy away from at all. They actually say nobody ever in history achieves greatness within their comfort zone. So how do we push past that fear and embrace the discomfort that comes with growth?
It really is about recognizing that our comfort zones, while maybe cozy, can become cages that keep us from our full potential.
Right.
What I find interesting is how the article frames change and challenges. They're not threats in this context. They're opportunities for growth. It's a subtle shift in thinking. It's so important.
It's like getting comfortable with being a little uncomfortable.
Right.
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 Because that's often where the magic happens.
Exactly.
Outside those familiar boundaries. But, you know, there's another sneaky blocker the article digs into that I think connects to this.
Okay.
The pursuit of perfection They actually use the phrase creative juices, which I thought was kind of funny.
It is, and it highlights how striving for perfection can actually stifle creativity.
Right. And hold us back. It's that fear of not being good enough right out of the gate.
Right.
They keep so many people from even trying.
Yeah.
Or putting their work out into the world.
So it's not about lowering our standards, but maybe shifting our perspective, focusing on progress over perfection, on the journey itself, not just the destination. Does that resonate with you?
Completely. Perfection is often subjective.
Yeah.
And, let's be real, pretty unattainable. When we chase it, it leads to analysis paralysis more often than actual progress. It's about giving yourself permission to iterate, to learn and improve along the way.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Procrastination, that inner critic, fear of failure, seeking validation from the wrong sources, the importance of setting goals and then actually breaking out of our comfort zones to achieve them, and the pitfalls of perfectionism. What else does this article delve into?
Well, next up is a big one.
Okay.
And it's something I think most people struggle with at some point.
Yeah.
Lack of discipline. And the article doesn't sugarcoat it.
Right.
It points out how those seemingly harmless phrases we tell ourselves, like, I'll do it later, or just one more episode, can really sabotage our long-term success.
Because it's not just about that one instance of procrastination, right?
Right.
It's the cumulative effect of those choices over time. Like, I'm definitely guilty of that one more episode mentality when it comes to Netflix.
And that's exactly what they're getting at. It's about the compound effect of our daily actions.
Right.
Or in this case, inaction. And that's where discipline comes in. Building those positive habits, setting routines, holding ourselves accountable. What are some small daily habits that you've incorporated into your life to combat this?
That's such a good question. I think for me, it's about starting my day with a clear to-do list. And tackling the most challenging task first. That sense of accomplishment then fuels the rest of my day.
But I'm curious, have you found that certain habits have been particularly game-changing for you?
You know, it's funny you should ask. I used to struggle with consistency in my writing.
Yeah.
Then I started this thing where I commit to writing for just 15 minutes.
Okay.
Every single morning, no matter what.
Wow.
And you wouldn't believe the difference it's made.
It's amazing how those small, consistent actions can really add up over time, right?
Absolutely. The article actually connects this to the power of habit formation, emphasizing that even small actions done consistently can lead to significant results. It's about playing the long game, understanding that success is often a marathon, not a sprint.
Totally. And just like a marathon runner needs resilience to push through those moments of doubt, we need to cultivate that same resilience to overcome the inevitable challenges we'll face on our own journeys. What's fascinating is that the article doesn't just tell us to be resilient, it actually defines it so clearly. The capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness.
It's a powerful definition, and I think what's important to remember is that resilience isn't something we're necessarily born with. It's a muscle that we develop through facing and overcoming adversity, through picking ourselves up after setbacks, and using those experiences to grow.
It's about viewing those setbacks as opportunities for learning and growth. Not as failures. But I think sometimes those setbacks can be particularly tough when they come in the form of other people's successes. Which can trigger comparison and envy, the final success blocker the article discusses. Have you found that to be true in your own life?
Absolutely. In today's world, it's so easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, especially with the constant barrage of curated perfection we see on social media. It can be incredibly difficult to stay focused on our own lane and celebrate our own wins.
The article puts it so perfectly, saying, jealousy destroys relationships with yourself. It's such a profound statement. Because when we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, we lose sight of our own unique strengths and accomplishments. We're essentially giving our power away, letting someone else's highlight reel dictate our own self-worth. So how do we combat that? What are some practical strategies for overcoming comparison and envy?
The article really zeroes in on shifting our focus from comparison to personal growth. It's about celebrating those personal wins, no matter how small they might seem, and cultivating a sense of gratitude for how far we've already come.
You know, I think that's so important. It's easy to get caught up in wanting what others have. that we forget to appreciate our own journeys.
Yeah.
Like the old saying goes, comparison really is the thief of joy.
It absolutely is. And I think this is a good moment to remind ourselves everyone's running their own race.
Right.
Comparing ourselves to others, it's like comparing apples and oranges. We all have different starting points, different strengths and weaknesses, different challenges, and ultimately different definitions of success.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
And it's so freeing when you can really embrace that, right?
Yeah.
Celebrating your own unique journey, focusing on your own growth.
Absolutely.
That's how you break free from those comparison traps.
Exactly. And that's what I appreciate about this article.
Yeah.
It doesn't just point out these common blockers, but offers actionable ways to overcome them.
Yeah.
It empowers you to take control of your mindset and your actions.
It really does. And it's a great reminder that success isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about progress, perseverance, and having a strong sense of self-belief.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's about showing up for yourself, even when it's hard.
Well said. So for anyone listening who's ready to ditch those self-imposed limitations and step into their full potential, remember this. You are capable of incredible things. Don't let those pesky success blockers hold you back a moment longer. Now, before we wrap up, I have to ask you, if you could only choose one of these success blockers to focus on overcoming right now,
Okay.
which one do you think would have the biggest impact?
That is a fantastic question. It's like choosing your own adventure, but for personal growth.
Yeah.
If I had to pick just one,
Yeah.
I'd say tackling that negative self-talk is huge. Because once you silence that inner critic,
Right.
it opens up so many possibilities. What about you?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think for me, it'd be breaking free from the need for external validation.
Okay.
Really trusting my gut and owning my decisions, even if they don't always make sense to everyone else.
Love that. It's about defining success on your own terms.
Exactly. Well, this has been such an insightful deep dive into these common success blockers. It's amazing how these seemingly small shifts in mindset and habits can make such a big difference.
Couldn't agree more.
And for you listening, we want to hear from you. Which success blocker are you going to tackle first? Head over to our social media and let us know.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for the extraordinary.